is Trevor Marston, and I'm using my informative speech outline. And my topic is the process of the American criminal court system. I want my audience to understand how the American criminal court system works. Whether many people want to admit it or not, we have all been curious about the American criminal court system, whether it's from books, TV shows, or unfortunately for some, experience. According to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, approximately 12,196,959 people were arrested in 2012. We'll look at the different ways these people went through the American criminal court system. Being a criminal justice student for over a year, I have learned a lot that I previously did not know about the American criminal court system. People are arrested every day in the United States. Chances are you or someone you know has been arrested and went through the system. We all have a chance to be a victim of a crime at any point in our lives. It is very helpful to know what happens to criminals once they are tried and go through the system. Throughout my speech, you will learn 1, steps that are taken when people are arrested, 2, the process of court when trial begins, what happens after the trial is over. Let's start by looking at the steps that are taken when a person is arrested. First, in order for someone to be arrested, a crime has to take place. There are many different types of crime, including violent crime, property crime, theft, sex-related crime, and drug-related crime. The severity of the crime is split into 2 categories, felony and misdemeanor. According to the 12th edition of criminal law, a felony is the most serious type of offense and carries a sentence of 1 year in jail, generally punished by 1 year or more in prison. A misdemeanor is not as serious as a felony and usually carries a sentence of imprisonment from no more than a year. When an individual commits one of these acts and is caught, he or she is arrested. The arrest begins with being put in handcuffs and being taken to jail. And contrary to popular belief, police do not have to read your rights when they arrest you. Once in jail, the inmate is booked. Being booked includes being searched, fingerprinted, and photographed, put into the cell. The inmate, after a period of time, then sees a judge. Depending on the seriousness of the judge then decides if the offender will be given bail. According to the U.S. Constitution, there is no constitutional right to bail. Now we'll move on to trial. Second comes the trial. The trial is perhaps the most important in the criminal court system. When court begins, the judge will ask the defendant what they plead. The options are no contest, not guilty, or guilty. No contest plea is an alternative to guilty or not guilty plea, and the defendant neither disputes nor admits to a crime but will likely be charged with it. If pleading guilty, the judge will hand down a sentence. If the charge is serious, such as a felony, the offender will likely be taken back to jail until the sentence has been decided. This process could take weeks to months. If pleading not guilty, the defendant will have a trial by jury. This could take several weeks as the state must make a jury selection. Once the trial begins, the state will begin their opening statement and present evidence against the defendant. For example, in the case of murder, the prosecution may present evidence such as a murder weapon, motive, witnesses, and possibly recent internet searches that may relate to the crime. The defense will then present their own evidence in order to dispute the prosecution's claims. The defense may have additional physical evidence that includes but is not limited to other suspects, an alibi, eyewitnesses, and lack of motive. The last part of the trial is the deliberation of the jury. This could take several days or several weeks. There are several outcomes that are possible after the jury deliberates. The jury could fail in reaching the verdict, and this is called a hung jury. And if a hung jury happens, then the prosecution may choose to move forward with another trial or choose to not pursue further charges. The jury could reach a verdict of not guilty. If found not guilty, the defendant will be acquitted and released. The jury may also find the defendant guilty. If found guilty, the judge will send the defendant back to jail to await sentencing. Now that we have made it through trial comes sentencing and punishment. It may take several weeks for a judge to decide what the rightful punishment for the defendant will be. For example, in the case of minor drug possession, the minimum sentence could possibly be probation. Probation is a period the person will serve in which he or she will have to pass a drug test and see a probation officer every month and possibly do community service. And if they get in any more trouble, then their punishment will be twice as severe. Possibility for the more extreme charge, such as murder, the sentence could be incarceration for several years, incarceration for life, or even death. Now, once the sentence has been given, the offender will then be sent to prison. If given the sentence of death, the prisoner will be held on death row for several years until the date the execution takes place. Alright. Now, during my speech, I've given several harsh truths as to what happens to people who commit crime. You know that A, in order for someone to experience the American criminal court system, a crime has to take place. B, the steps taken during arrest and trial. And C, the sentencing and punishment process. I hope that you are now just as interested and knowledgeable as I am in the American criminal court system and how it works.